an organizer.
She's a scholar and writer and activist and organizer.
Judith Butler.
Judith Butler! You are fabulous!
You're all fabulous.
You're all fabulous!
I wish this center were fabulous.
I wish this center were fabulous!
The only way this center is going to become fabulous again
The only way this center is going to become fabulous again
is if it remembers that we fought police violence against queers,
that we fought police violence against queers,
that we sought to establish cultural and political centers as sanctuaries,
that we sought to establish cultural and political centers as sanctuaries,
good word,
good sanctuary for social controversy,
people who need protection,
for people who need protection,
in order to think,
in order to think,
to speak, and organize,
and organize,
in order to have livable lives,
in order to have livable lives,
to pursue social justice, establish solidarity.
and establish solidarity.
So if this place says
So if this place says
we can't house any group that's socially controversial,
we can't house any group that's socially controversial,
it's forgotten its history,
it's forgotten its history,
forgotten its commitment to social justice,
it's forgotten its commitment to social justice,
and it's sold out.
and it's sold out.
Yeah.
It was the first organized LGBTQ relegation.
He is a visiting scholar at the Center for the Study of Gender and Sexuality at NYU.
He is a visiting scholar at the Center for Gender and Sexuality at NYU.
And most importantly, he comes from Brooklyn.
And most importantly, he comes from Brooklyn.
During our delegation's visit to Hebron, we stood on a street separated
We stood on a street separated
by a partition
by a partition
that was 3 to 4 feet.
that was 3 to 4 feet.
This cement barrier
This cement barrier
was seemingly designed
was seemingly designed
for safety,
for safety,
to somehow
to somehow
keep the peace
keep the peace
by forcing a form of disconnection between Israeli settlers
between Israeli settlers
and Palestinian people.
and Palestinian people.
I stood on the Palestinian side
I stood on the Palestinian side
and observed in horror as this guarded wall,
as this guarded wall,
this military apparatus, a technology of division,
a technology of division,
of mobility control,
of mobility control,
of segregation,
of segregation,
of apartheid, forced many Palestinians
forced many Palestinians
to walk on one side
to walk on one side
as a means to allow for
as a means to allow for
the safety of a few Israeli settlers.
the safety of a few Israeli settlers.
I was mortified
I was mortified
and recalled the feelings of terror
and recalled the feelings of terror
and shame
and shame
when our tour guide
when our tour guide
asked armed security
asked armed security
to allow our entrance
to allow our entrance
to the other side,
to the other side because we crossed
a barrier
a barrier
that Palestinians
that Palestinians
could not.
could not.
This account, my standing at the wall,
My standing at the wall,
looking at armed forces,
looking at armed forces,
feeling the force of segregation,
feeling the force of segregation,
is a troubling and perfect way to think about the question of what's queer about anti-occupation, what's queer about Palestinian land,
What's queer about Palestinian land
and bodies
and bodies
having the right
having the right
towards self-determination.
towards self-determination.
If we understand queerness
If we understand queerness
as a political framework
as a political framework
that seeks to destabilize
that seeks to destabilize
state-sanctioned regimes
state-sanctioned regimes
of control of our bodies,
of control of our bodies,
our identities, our expressions, whether sexual or otherwise, the refusal of labels that delimit and limit us, the undoing of accepted and mundane practices, laws and ideas that diminish our humanity, the dismantling of literal, of metaphorical walls, of barriers, of that 3-foot wall in Hebron. Everything about that ain't queer. Queerness is about dismantling walls, dismantling barriers, dismantling that which separates us. What's queer about the occupation?
What's queer about the occupation?
Nothing.
Nothing.
What's queer about anti-occupation?
What's queer about anti-occupation?
Every damn thing. What's queer about anti-occupation?
What's queer about anti-occupation?
Every damn thing.
Every damn thing.
We reject
We reject
walls, barriers, anything that separates us. Moratorium is a wall. A moratorium is a barrier. A moratorium keeps us from community. And it ain't queer. What's queer about a moratorium?
What's queer